Among Us. Yeah, you can go ahead and make the accusation that I'm milking this game for all it's worth. And you're right, I am. But since everyone else on YouTube and Twitch are doing the same thing, fuck it. Let's talk about Among Us. Among Us is a social deception game from the way back year of 2018, released to Steam and mobile devices with basically no fanfare or relevance when it happened. The core concept of the game is that you are an armless jelly bean with legs that has to complete tasks in order to maintain the security and stability of your base, or ship, or whatever Mira HQ actually is. I think it's an office. The tasks are basic click and do kind of tasks that are entirely simple and brainless in execution. Except when the card reader wants to be a dick like the self-checkout at Walmart, or when 4 people are all trying to fix the lights at the same time. And that is the core of the crewmate gameplay. Very simple. Then you have the impostors. Alien monstrosities that disguise themselves as jelly beans and like murdering the crewmates in any way they can. The impostors' goal is to kill either enough people to force a draw in voting or sabotage a core mechanism of your base so that the crew explodes or suffocates. And that is it. GG easy. One small quirk in the impostors' plan are the meetings where everyone compiles evidence that they have gathered about suspicious activity from other players and votes on who they think the impostors are. Or, in reality, what actually goes down, the meeting devolves into a chaotic shouting match where you have to hope you sound more believable than the others or get yeeted into the lava pit, or the cold vacuum of space. Despite being, a good person trying to win the game. Of course, there is always the random sniping of other players based on absolutely nothing that is inexplicably correct. My personal favorite. Now, you're probably wondering to yourself, dear viewer, but NC, that doesn't sound like a very enthralling gameplay loop and seems like it would get really boring very quickly. And you know what? You're absolutely right. The game had reached its massive cultish following for all of about 2 weeks before that particular set of cracks started to show, and streamers scrambled to make their own game modes that kept things spicy before realizing most of them are not fun for more than a few rounds, and then they just moved back to the core game styles. Except for Search and Destroy. That shit needs to be made in official mode. So now you're wondering how this game managed to become bigger than Fortnite and has stayed that way for months, despite this apparent boredom of it. Well, the truth is, it's just a fun concept. Calling your friends out for being absolutely ass at lying and finding new ways to get away with murdering the one guy that trusts you just so you can blame his death on someone else is delightfully amusing. Of course, this style of game is nothing new, and Among Us was hardly the first to do this. But it was the lowest cost and most easily accessed game of the bunch. And it was also not overburdened by having mechanics, layered upon mechanics, layered upon mechanics, layered upon mechanics, and you get the point. The success of Among Us is entirely reliant on its simplicity. So, now that I've set the basis for this game and what it is, let's talk about the intangibles of this game and how this is going to drastically affect its future. Among Us is a rare breed of game that is so much fun to play that something very critical about the game is often overlooked. Among Us is not a good game. Now, before I am stoned to death via the comments from that statement, allow me to explain. When you think of games that are good, you tend to think of old and new AAA titles that are the core foundation of franchises and whole genres of gaming, like nearly any Mario or Zelda game, released by Nintendo for Nintendo. You may also think of games from the indie scene that broke the mold for what a game could do in the modern generation, like Undertale with its unique approach to combat and storytelling, or Minecraft with saying, here's the game, here are your tools, you actually make the game yourself. There is little argument to be made against the statement that these are equal parts good and fun games. When it comes to games that are one of those things drastically over the other, I like to point at The Last of Us. Hear me out. A genuinely great game in terms of visual design and storytelling with relatively solid gameplay mechanics. And those earned it. Every single award it won when it came out. But, and this is a huge, massive but, the game really is not that fun or enjoyable to play. The game very much rides the story to the first finish, but after you know the story, you are left with a very mediocre combat, stealth, and level design that just never works on a second run. In comparison, Among Us, finally got back to the point here, is just a fun and simple concept that is built upon a technical mess of a game. The card reader not knowing what the fuck a good swipe is, the constant server meltdowns, the I killed a person as they hit the button and now they are in the meeting as both alive and dead, and again, the lack of features away from the core game all hold the game back from being good. If you really need any sort of proof as to how bad the game really is at its core, just play in public lobbies with people you don't know. It is genuinely awful, and the whole thing falls to pieces instantly. So, what does all that mean for the future of the game? Well, it has nowhere to go but up. Like I said, the core gameplay loop is fun when you're playing with friends, so improving the servers to keep people from getting disconnected will go a long way in that alone. The 3 maps are all well designed and accommodate for a lot of player skill levels, and the creator and modding community is already hard at work getting new mechanics like the proximity chat feature that needs to be made canon, and new modes like the previously mentioned search and destroy that would really go a long way in shaking up the core of the game. For a game that only costs $5, it has a lot going for it, so long as the developers actually take notice of player feedback and get to work on those upgrades. Now, you might have noticed that I haven't said much about the game's strategies, play styles, and 200 to 9,000 IQ plays. The reason is those have less to do with the game itself and are more the result of how players and the community as a whole took over the core of the game to make it a very competitive, big brains only style of game, which is not an inherent part of the game's original design, and therefore is not part of this review. Smite was a completely different animal. I just want to make some things clear. I do enjoy this game, and will probably keep playing it as long as there is demand by fans and desire among my friends to do so. The whole point of this series is to discuss games in a more objective and fair manner, so I'm going to call the game out for its flaws and its successes. Among Us is not a bad game. It's just not a great one. Sometimes being okay is okay. I do personally wish the developers had stuck to their guns on just releasing a sequel with all the new features that they wanted to include, but I understand the choice to just make minor improvements to this one every so often. I am looking forward to the new map, and I really cannot wait to have Search and Destroy as its own game mode. Also, please give us the ability to change the number of impostors and the map without having to make a new lobby. Before I go, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching this video, and if you're part of my obedient masses, do me a favor and leave a like down below. Additionally, if you could also leave a comment down below telling me what you thought of the video, and what video game you think I should do next for a fair review. Additionally, if you're not subscribed to this channel, be sure to subscribe and enjoy the obedient masses. That is my order, my command, and my desire. For now, I have been NC, and this has been a fair